Good morning, classroom. Good morning, reading room. I haven't seen a lot of people here in the reading room, but I don't trust those numbers at all. Anyway, but it is kind of interesting to me that the hackers are showing me 0 people in the reading room for this being Catholic now. I think it's an important text. I don't care how you feel about Catholics. I think it's an important text to pay attention to, because a lot of people have been affected by Catholicism. So you should pay attention. Pay attention, St. William. Sitting over there with your fingers making your accusations about people. Diana. I know. Hurt feelings all over the place. Get over it. We're adults. We do things for the betterment of the world. And my things aren't your things. Pay attention. That's my thing. You know that. Being Catholic now. Prominent Americans talk about change in the Catholic Church and what it means to them. Not exactly, but yeah. Not exactly as it's written. But here we are. Day 23, we are reading the excerpt from Gay Talese. Born February 7th, 1932. Is the best-selling author of 11 books where writing style broke new ground in literary nonfiction. Talese's 1966 Esquire article, Frank Sinatra Has a Cold, is one of the most influential American magazine articles of all time, inspiring magazine editors to accept his technique of writing about the creating and compiling of the story itself rather than simply writing about the subject. Oh, sounds like you've got a lot of loose lips. Interpretation. He rose to become one of the country's foremost essayists and a leading practitioner of new journalism. I'm going to put on my other glasses. They're better. My new reading glasses. Beginnings. I am 76. I was born in February 1932 of Italian Catholics in Ocean City, New Jersey, near Atlantic City. And this town, settled by Methodist ministers in the 1870s, was a Protestant island. In the summertime, there must have been nearly 70,000 people. I'm speaking of the 1930s and 1940s in the World War II years. But in the wintertime, the island population shrunk to about 6,000, of which I would bet 5,500 were Protestant, not just Methodists, but Episcopalians and everything else. There was a minority Catholic parish which had probably 300 parishioners, of which there was a very small group of about a dozen or so Italians. Italians built the railroad attaching Ocean City to Atlantic City and then Philadelphia in the 1880s, and some of them stayed. So here it's interesting because we keep talking about building the railroads and many of the Chinese people, but here you've got Italian Americans who helped with building the railroads too. And then that could really put in a unnatural rift between Italian Americans and Chinese citizens or Chinese railroad workers if the Italian Americans ended up, well, first of all, I'm even referring to them as Italian Americans, were given first priority in the payment for the railroad, which is likely the case. And looking for payment through the women and prostitution, which is likely the case. Bring your wives, bring your women over here when you come over here as well. We have work for them. And then, oh, don't mind if we sully your women's reputation from top to bottom for centuries afterwards. My father was a tailor born in Italy in 1903. He worked with uncles who were tailors in Paris, then came to America in 1920 and went to Philadelphia. He was a Catholic and in 1922 settled in Ocean City. He lived as a bachelor for about 8 years there and had a tailor shop catering to the Methodist elite. They were the lawyers, the bankers, the ministers, whoever passed for the establishment on this sandy shore. But he was a Catholic and he attended Mass regularly. The Ku Klux Klan burned a cross in Ocean City in the early 1920s, directed at the Catholics. And I saw men in sheets when I was a kid. You don't have to go to Birmingham for this. The leading pharmacist in our town was the head of this Klan. The leading pharmacist in our town was the head of this Ku Klux Klan. But he was a man who graduated from the Philadelphia College of Pharmacy, and he had a sense of presence about him that gave you the impression he was a gentleman, very rigid, but in his secret private life, in the dark shadows of his white shirt, he was a lurking Klansman. There's a lot of hypocrisy in small towns that is evident and pervasive. St. Augustine's was a church which on weekdays had bamboo rollers that came from the ceiling to the floor, rolling off and forming a classroom. That's where I went to school, grades 1 to 8. On Saturdays when confessions were heard and on Sundays when Mass was said, the rollers were moving up the ceiling. We were taught by nuns, some of them born in Ireland, and I was the Italian altar boy. When I reached the age of 14, I went to the public school in town, Ocean City High School, and then to the University of Alabama. I was a very fearful Catholic. The church, or at least the parish that I was influenced by, prepared you for death. There was a sense that you'd be better prepared because without warning, you could die and you would go to hell burning forever. This has left a mark on me to this day. It shapes my work. You know, see, that's something right there that did not shape me. I was like, that's stupid. I mean, what is God an idiot? God needs. Oh, hold on just a minute. I didn't catch that rule that you people put down for me. What is that? That if you had to say confession for every sin, or you better prepare for the fires of hell. Even as a kid, the problem is that so many people are told, and it's not a problem. It's just a sort of a way of life to shut up about it. But interiorly, in your interior, I've made up a whole bunch of words today. In your interior, you just know, and as you grow up, if you don't know any longer, like the real truth of things, I don't know why. I wouldn't know why. Why wouldn't you know the real truth of things, right? Why wouldn't you know that your way of thinking, Margaret Feravich, about mud people wasn't just a shot in the dark by some jackass who wanted to be that way? I mean, at least I have a Bible and there's some presence that the Bible is very old, right? I'm not saying it's my word, right? I'm saying I'm pretty passionate about it and that I'm holy. So it doesn't, that doesn't shape me. That confession thing and how people think that it clears your sins, number one. Don't be so stupid. Oh, yeah. Oh, God's okay with that. Yeah. In your dreams. In your dreams. That's why you don't believe in him. Because you think he's like you. Breaking every other rule. And getting the technical language down pat. Don't be stupid. He's not. Don't be so fucking stupid. He's not. I mean, honestly, the ignorance of some of that kind of theory and I keep thinking of, propaganda, which it is, but it is like the tenets of faith. Get over yourself. Get over yourself. It's the tenets of your faith because you're weak. Some of you who are mud people, that's because you're weak. It's because you're so weak. You're fearful, and you're fearful because you're weak. I've seen your weaknesses. I run from them. I think they're toxic. When I was a reporter for the New York Times, I was a governing factor. There was this fear of making mistakes. Don't be careless. You will be punished. Nothing is guaranteed. Don't believe in anything until you see it. A sense of caution and concern that I would be in error or in a compromising position or a sinner of some sorts. Now that is true. And that, I think, is a sort of Italian-American kind of a thing where you've got the Protestant work ethic, but your ass is lit on fire. That's the passion of Italians. You're always, what's going on? Hold on. Are those bullets? Or am I just finding my way through a, conclave in the dirt? What do you call those? Underneath the Vatican? The tunnels there. Cemeteries, but they're not, but they are. What do you call those? I forgot. Every Catholic is, this is why I don't want you. You think you're Catholic? You think you ever were Catholic? What business do you have teaching my kids? I think I taught really, really well, especially considering all of the divisiveness over there at St. William that you can't even watch my stuff. What's the matter with you, honestly? What is the matter with you? With the exception, I have to say, of Lori Zulik. I'm not sure, though. I'm not sure about that. I get the feeling she wants to be second, right behind me in the everlasting life pool. She's watching me to show the way, but I think she wants to be second. She doesn't have a desire to be first. I don't know that I did. I could have watched, but I don't mind leading this one. This race. So, I also don't think that that's bad. Don't be careless. Now, the other stuff may be socialized. You will be punished. Nothing is guaranteed. Don't believe in anything until you see it. That part is socialized from this. You may have the American dream one minute. They're going to give you the big middle finger the next if you're not a sheeple about it, right? So that is socialized. But this don't be careless. I just love that. There was this fear of making mistakes. Don't be careless. Don't be careless. Sometimes I'm careless, but I don't think I try, and I have been careless about very bad things. About very bad things. I've been very careless about drinking and driving. Careless beyond my comfort, for sure. For sure. Well beyond my comfort level. And it all happened when I separated from my husband. It all happened then because he was always much more careful about drinking and driving than I was. I wasn't used to it. And then all of a sudden, I was on the streets having to drink and drive. I didn't have to, but I was going through a divorce. And I know it's not an excuse, and it's not. I'm just saying that why I was out of the house because I didn't want to argue with my husband. And every time I was in the house, I was arguing with him. And if I went out, I sat at the bar, and they don't want your ass at the bar drinking tea. I've been told that. Even if the bar is empty, it's not a good look. Don't you ass out of there. Somebody might come in. You don't even know. You might get a flood of people in an instant. So I like that. Don't be careless. When you're an immigrant, a son of outsiders, you don't want to do anything to discredit them because they're insecure enough and they're trying to rise socially. Again, this European bullshit all over the smacks of shit. Like it smells like shit. It smacks on the wall like shit. It just could be shit. Might not be shit. My father was always elegantly dressed like I am. My mother has a dress shop. She was very slender, and I thought I had the best looking mother in town. My kids did too, but I wasn't very slender. She was born in Brooklyn, white Italian ghetto, and then she went to work for a large department store. She got to know a lot of people who were not like those in her neighborhood, and she got to know fashion and perfume. When you do that, you are elevated from your insularity as an ethnic. Once she moved out of Brooklyn, she rarely ever returned because she also wanted to separate herself from the ghetto. And I get that too. It's not really a separate yourself from. For example, I love my roots of Fremont, but I didn't go back and it was a very similar thing. I wasn't that person. I'm this person over here. You want to see who this person is? Come and visit me. But when I'm back there, it's hard for me to be the person I am. And I'll give you one example of that, which is just a ridiculous example and a wonderful example. And that is, and I've said this before on air, and that is my wearing scarves. Although that's a funny thing. I was thinking about that yesterday. I'm not going to, the dresses, if I were like whatever, Pope would really be degraded by scarves, but I was always upgraded by scarves. I felt it's this artistic part of me that's a little bit fresh and windy, long-windy. That's what my scarves are. But I wouldn't wear them. I couldn't wear them. It was always like, who do you think you are? But I can't wear hats because I'm always like, who do you think you are? But that's not really true. Hats just flatten my hair. And then it's like, ugh, who's that? When you're sitting in a restaurant after a hat affair. I'm just saying, if you relied on AI to get that translation correct, you probably got it wrong. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, and you wonder if that socialization of being insecure about not fitting in, that's certainly an Americanized thing. Keep reaching for the hope, keep reaching for the dream. We'll be sitting over here watching you in our Freemasonry wear. I mean, no matter what, when you take a look at that, you just have to be like, what? If you are the offspring of such an arrangement, of such a couple whose sense of virtue is probably more pronounced than it should be, you become careful. Okay, not so bad. Things could be worse. You could be careless, impulsive. I mean, to me, that's not great, right? Being careless is not great to me. My father was always elegantly dressed and like I am. My mother, we already read all that. She got to know a lot of people who were not like those in her neighborhood. We already read all that. You're elevated from your insularity as an ethnic. Once you move, you move. So my father was from Calabria, Italy, with his suits, and my mother with her dress shop, having learned about fashion from the largest shop in Brooklyn, started a life together of assimilation, if not social acceptance. And when you grow up with awareness, you too become careful and polite. As I am careful and polite. I'm less careful. I'm older now. Catholicism wasn't something I could get away from because it was overwhelming in my altar boy days and during my high school years. I joined the Newman Club in college in 1949 when I was 17 and gradually shifted away, but not so much in the spiritual sense. I was 1,000 miles from home and no one knew anything about me. I was allowed to start again. It was my second chance. I met my future wife, Nan, in 1957, 4 years after graduation from college, and I just started my career with the New York Times. Nan and I married outside the church. I really didn't care about her religion. It was totally accidental that I would be comfortable with a woman with a Catholic education and, in fact, a rather elitist one. Certainly in a class sense, I was marrying up. Her father married a woman 22 years his junior who converted to Catholicism. Her father, a corporate lawyer and fundraiser for worthy causes, was not a teetotaler. Not long after I met Nan, we became enamored of each other and got sexually involved after a year. I went to Rye to meet her parents a couple of times during the premarital period, and a lot of Nan's friends from the clubs felt that she was marrying the wrong kind. I was outside of the tracks, and I picked up on that. It suddenly threw me right back to my early feeling in Ocean City. Her mother did not want her to go out with me. She had ambitions for her daughter. Nan was the prettiest of girls, and her mother had high hopes for her socially. Nan wanted to get out of there, and even though I wasn't the dream candidate and she was dating other people for some reason, maybe a bit of rebellion, she became attached to me. I did not want to go back to Rye anymore. I was looked upon as an outsider, and I no longer wanted to feel like one. Nan wanted to be with me, she said, but we couldn't just live together in those days. I simply didn't know what to do. But Nan said her mother wanted us to get married in church. We had to get married. In 1959, I got an assignment to go to Rome to write an article for the New York Times Magazine on Federico Fellini, who was making La Dolce Vita, but I was actually writing about the city of Rome and the main street, and that's when I called Nan and said to come over. We essentially eloped. She called her parents and said she was going to go. Her father said go ahead. Her mother said get married in church in the Trinità dei Monti. But they no longer had weddings in that church, and we finally ended up in a civil ceremony in a beautiful place. Nan's mother was furious. She said, I will never talk to you. I said, I will not speak to you either. And we didn't for about 35 years. Even though it's been a long time since I've been a churchgoer, there are certain Catholic principles that affect me to this day. A sense of honor, a sense of truth. It would help if some of today's journalists really believed that, as I believe it. I got that from the nuns, echoed by the priests. The fact that what matters is not just today, there's a longer measure, a greater life out there. It's a life hereafter. George Eliot writes about how religion is a fear of the hereafter. People need religion because they have to have some belief in that they're not just going to perish, that it matters that a lifetime of dedication to certain standards will pay off. Otherwise, why bother? It doesn't end with your heart ceasing to be. It goes on. I believe that. What I do is going to be measured long after I'm dead. That is what I carried of Catholicism. So in a religious sense, I do have a sense of religiosity inculcated in the work I do and the attitude I have about work. You know, we have socialized death, and it has become clearer and clearer to me in this Western capacity that we understand death, that it is very socialized. And why isn't death socialized as life, as it is in other religions? Just an extension, a different form, a transformation of life. Why isn't it perceived as that? And in that other life, you have a second chance to what? Be who you want to be? You don't know. You have no idea. You called it death and you feared death, Christianity. That's the narration in order to manipulate you about your life, right? And that you have to produce. What if you called death life? Many people believe it's just a different form of life. but it's still life. But it's just a different form of life. Stop calling death death. Call it life. There's a paradigm shift for you. I don't go to Mass now, but I do pray. It's a cliche. Once a Catholic, always a Catholic. You don't convert to anything else. And yet with me, there are certain areas of Catholic teachings that don't have a hold. While I've had a lust in my heart, like Jimmy Carter, I've never wanted to leave my wife for another woman. But I have women friends who've been friends of mine for 25 to 30 years. They're like an adjunct of my marriage. My marriage is here, my children are here, and I may have a lady friend in Alabama who goes back to my college days, or someone I met in Los Angeles in 1976, or China. I have these people in my life that I write to, call, and care about. I would see... Did you have sex with them? I don't know. That's weird. To me. But that doesn't preclude it from good, healthy relationships. It precludes it from a good, healthy relationship with me. I would see my mother who died last August and my father who died in 1993 twice a week. This is the type of thing that I got out of when I thought what I thought was Catholicism, the idea of being responsible. There is a certain respect you pay, and not only out of a sense of obligation. There are things you're supposed to do. I measure friendship by how willing people are to be inconvenienced by the friendship. It's a test. It's very easy to be a friend of somebody important, but what happens when a person is down and out, has lost the talk shows, is no longer a book editor, or no longer has a potential use to you? We've been going to funerals lately because many of my friends are dying. One of them we went to recently was Gordon Parks, and in the cab coming back, we were talking about our funerals. We decided that we should have our funerals in church, but what church? We haven't been to church. I'm now going to have to cultivate a relationship with the pastor. That's Catholicism. I haven't been in church in 50 years, but now I have to deal with the maker who also have a nice reception. We now have to lay the groundwork with the proper donations. I may not be entirely formed, but I was greatly influenced by my Catholic upbringing, and that is, you can't escape responsibility. You're going to be found out. Better to do good work that matters. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I really did like that. Gay Toulouse. The next reading we have is going to be from Stephen Otellini. Stephen Otellini, who is a priest, it looks like. All right, this is Dr. Annette Feravich, and we are done with our 3 days on, ready for our 4 days off, that I'm going to start by taking my car and trying to get over the guilt that I feel because I spent more money than I wanted to, but less money than you would expect on some leather products. I better get to a move on. A couple of those actually reminded me that I used to do some fashion design in my young days, and I actually could, if I didn't have a fear of ruining the beautiful leather pieces. I'm going to show you guys what they look like. Just because we don't do a lot of DIY, and if you're done with the reading, you're done with the reading, and you can turn this off. But here are the 2 leather pieces, which look like they don't go together, and they go together beautifully, I think, and I already have an idea for them. There are the 2 pieces right there. So you can't really make a purse out of it without making sure, and I've already got enough material to make purses and ideas and patterns and all that. But it reminded me that I used to put some of these things together. And what you do if you want to design something is you start with the fabric. And you're just like, okay, what can I do with this fabric that I have here? And again, it's the purses and the wallets and things like that, because that's what I've been making. But this is I just thought, okay, it may not be very trendy if I made a shirt out of this, but I don't care because it's beautiful leather. And so if I made a camisole top out of this, it wouldn't be very trendy because of all that sheen on there, but it would be very beautiful. I would love it because it's out of leather, but I don't have a big enough piece to do that, and I'm much larger than I used to be when I was small, when I was young. So, and even if I put these two pieces together, I don't know if I have enough. But then I remembered, again, the repeats. I've got the repeats. I remember what I did, and I put a grommet here. There was a grommet, and pulled this leather through. So it would be hanging like a beautiful scarf here, pulling this leather through, and it would come from the back. So this would be the front with this beautiful piece of leather pulled through a grommet of a shell, not a shell, of a camisole, right? So like I have on here, like this. So I'm making this essentially, right? And so this is the front that goes into the back. This is the middle of the back that then has a piece for the back in the middle, and your scrunched up piece that comes from behind and comes through the grommet on this. How about that? I don't think I have enough material. I'm too big. But I'm gonna see. And you know, it's so, I have to be careful. I have to lay it out because it gets wrinkled. It gets wrinkled. And so then I have to worry about ironing it as well. So I really want to think about this and not ruin my new 2 pieces of leather fabric that I got. And I have to say because I do worry about Tandy being part of the system. I heard that it is, and that they're really not a very good company. We don't have a lot of choices for this kind of leather, and I got these pieces. They were really inexpensive. Like I said, I got 3 pieces, another piece over there that is the proper thickness for the red purses that I wanted to make. It doesn't matter. I may have pictures of that, and I might show you. I don't usually do this in the reading room, but we're here for 3 days off. I'm sorry, 4 days off now. We were 3 days on. We're here for 4 days off, and I wanted to tell you what I'm contemplating and sort of how I do contemplate some of these crafts that I do. In Early Birds, I talk about it. I talked about how to put together a podcast, which was really contemplating your knowledge, content, and creativity. And we did that on a level for Early Birds, for elementary school kids. Because when I put these ideas together, you are thinking well outside the box. And that's really what you have to do when you are a creative person. I only have these 2 pieces. I only have so much money. I have to make it work for me. I'll have to think about putting a zipper in it though. I might have to put some kind of a zipper in it because leather does not give at all. But how about that? I might even show you that design if I can somehow figure out how to fill the pattern in with that actual design. So again, it would come up here, but I might even have like a neck on it. I'm not sure, which would be this green there. It would be the back panel. It'd be a panel in the back with this being a scarf that comes through the front and spreads out like a beautiful leather scarf. I sat there and thought about it. What would that be good for? A scarf. What would I do? Just cut it into a scarf? Oh. These 2, I like the way they look together. I do. This is Dr. Annette Feravich. We are here on day 197 of the classroom. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for letting me talk to you about some of my creative ideas. Thanks for letting me know that that big goose egg is just a bunch of hackers out there, because I know you're watching, and I'm really happy. I worry about my boys, as you know, and so I haven't cried today, though. So that is good news. I have to go take my car in and try not to forget that. Dr. Annette Feravich signing off of our 3 days on, but because, why do we only do 3 days on, 4 days off? Because that's how we build a healthier mind, a healthier body, and a healthier spirit. We don't need to be working for production. We have a lot of stuff to talk about. Thanks for joining me.